Liam walked into the dean's office wearing a navy designer suit he'd posted online the night before. I knew because one of the screenshots was sitting in the folder in front of me. He had captioned the picture, "Freshman Excellence starts early." That was Liam. He could turn, standing in front of a bathroom mirror, into an award ceremony. The door opened behind him with a soft click. He took 3 steps into the room before realizing something was wrong. The dean wasn't behind the mahogany desk. I was. Liam stopped. His leather briefcase slipped out of his hand and struck the carpet with a dull thump. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. I watched his face try to make sense of me. The dress, the tailor jacket folded over the back of the chair, the 2 security men beside the door, my father standing near the windows, the attorney from Sterling and Vale quietly closing a silver laptop. Then Liam finally looked at my face. His mouth opened. "Anya." There was no anger in his voice yet, just confusion. That almost made it worse. He stared at me the way people stare at someone they've already buried. "What are you doing here?" I leaned back. "Sit down." He didn't. His eyes moved quickly toward the dean, who was standing near the bookcase with his hands folded in front of him. "Where's Dean Holloway?" "I'm right here," the dean said. Liam blinked. Then he looked at me again. "No. I mean, why is she sitting there?" I took a drink of sparkling water. The glass was cold against my fingers. For some reason, that brought back a memory of ice running down my face, 18 months earlier. Arthur's laughter. Howen watching from the kitchen. Liam leaning against the refrigerator, smiling. Blood bag. Even now, I could hear the way my adoptive father had said it. Not angrily. Casually. Like it was my name. Liam's expression tightened. "You are supposed to be in jail." I actually smiled, not because it was funny, because for years I had dreamed about hearing fear in Liam's voice, and now that I finally did, it was quieter than I expected. "My biological family's foundation controls 70% of the endowment structure supporting this university," I said. His face changed. Only slightly, but I saw it. "We don't technically own the university, obviously. Institutions don't work quite that way. But when a donor responsible for hundreds of millions of dollars asks why a student was admitted using fraudulent academic records," I touched the folder. "People start reading carefully." Liam went pale. "Fraudulent?" The dean stepped forward. "Liam, please sit. I didn't do anything. You haven't even heard the allegation. I said I didn't do anything." The old Liam appeared for half a second. The boy who could yell at Helen because his eggs were overcooked. The boy who went through a laptop against a wall because I had gotten one answer wrong on the homework I was doing for him. The boy who had never encountered a locked door that did not eventually open. He pointed at me. "Whatever she told you is a lie." Thrash Portsmouth. My father moved away from the window. Liam noticed him for the first time. Marcus Sterling didn't raise his voice. He rarely needed to. "Careful." One word. Liam's hand dropped. I opened the folder. "There are 3 things we're going to discuss today." "Anya, sit." This time he did. I slid the first paper across the desk. "Your admission has been rescinded." He stared at the page, then at me, then back at the page. "What?" "The university's disciplinary committee determined that material portions of your application were fraudulent." "No. Your grades were altered. Several exams were completed by someone else. Your personal essay contains work you didn't write, and your recommendation packet includes a forged signature." His breathing became shallow. "That's not true." "It is." "No." I slid another page over. "Your enrollment is terminated effective immediately." He didn't touch it. His eyes were bright now. Not with tears, with panic. "What about my tuition?" "Non-refundable under the fraud provision you agreed to when you enrolled." His mouth fell open. "No." "Yes, you can't do that. The school can." He looked toward Dean Holloway. The dean's face was tired. We have. For the first time in his life, Liam had run out of adults willing to rescue him. He looked back at me. His jaw trembled. "You did this." I held his gaze. "No, Liam." I tapped the evidence folder. "You did." And watching him sit there surrounded by all that polished wood and old money and academic tradition, I thought about the room where I had slept for most of my childhood. 6 feet by 8. No real window. A folding cot pressed between the washing machine and a metal shelf full of detergent. The smell of bleach, the pipes knocking in winter, my school books hidden beneath a basket of towels, so Liam wouldn't tear them up when he was bored. I remembered lying awake beneath a thin blanket while the dryer shook beside me. I remembered listening to my family laugh upstairs. And I remembered believing completely that if I worked hard enough, if I stayed quiet enough, if I gave enough, they might eventually love me. That was the lie that kept me alive. It was also the lie that almost destroyed me. 18 months earlier, I was standing in Arthur and Helen's kitchen, holding a college acceptance letter with both hands because they were shaking, not from excitement, from fear. I had rehearsed what I was going to say 3 times in the laundry room. I only needed $500. 5, I already had the scholarship. Tuition was covered. Books were covered. Books were covered. A meal plan was included. The housing office just required a deposit before August 1st, and because Arthur had taken every dollar I had earned working weekends at a grocery store, I didn't have it. Helen was slicing strawberries for Liam. She didn't look up. Arthur sat at the table scrolling through his phone. Liam had one foot on the chair beside him and was showing Arthur pictures of dorm rooms at Hawthorne University. Hawthorne was the school. That was how everyone talked about it. Old stone buildings, legacy families, political dynasties, technology founders, people whose names appeared on hospital wings. Liam had been accepted 2 weeks earlier. Arthur had ordered champagne. Helen invited neighbors. They bought Liam a watch that cost almost $6,000. I found the receipt in the trash while taking it out. $500. That was what I needed. I swallowed. Arthur? His thumb kept moving over his phone. I wasn't allowed to call him Dad anymore. I had tried once when I was 12. He had stared at me across the dinner table and said, "Don't make things weird." So, Arthur. "Can I ask you something?" Helen sighed. "She's doing the voice." I looked at her. "What voice?" "The poor little orphan voice." Liam snorted. "I hate that voice." I felt my face go hot. "I'm not. What do you want?" Arthur asked. I held out the letter. "I got the scholarship." "Nothing. Not even surprise." "I told you last month. I remember. It's full tuition. Congratulations." His tone made the word sound like an inconvenience. "I just need a housing deposit." Arthur finally looked up. "How much?" "500. He laughed once, a small sound through his nose. Then he looked back at his phone. "No." I stood there. I had expected no. I think some part of me had still hoped for hesitation. "Arthur, I can pay it back." "With what?" "I can work." "You already work?" "Then I'll take more hours." Helen placed a strawberry on Liam's plate. "Sweetheart, don't eat all of those. I need some for tomorrow." Liam took one without looking away from his phone. I tried again. "If I don't pay it by Friday, I lose the dorm." Arthur's jaw tightened. "And the college is almost 2 hours away, so commute." "I don't have a car. Take a bus." "There isn't a direct bus." Helen wiped her hands on a towel. "Anya, the answer is no." I looked from her to Arthur. "Please." Liam sighed loudly. "Oh my God." I ignored him. "I've never asked for anything like this." Arthur put his phone down. "That should have warned me." He folded his hands together and stared at me with a patience that felt rehearsed. "Do you know how much we're paying for Liam?" I didn't answer. "Do you?" "No. $48,000 this year." Liam smiled. Arthur continued. "That's before housing." "Before travel," continued. "Before clothes. Before the laptop he needs." "I don't need a new laptop," Liam said. Arthur looked at him. "You absolutely do." Then back to me. "We have responsibilities." My fingers tightened around the letter. "I'm also your responsibility." The kitchen went quiet. Even Helen stopped moving. Arthur stared at me. I knew immediately that I had crossed some invisible line. "What did you say?" My voice came out smaller. "I said I'm also." He picked up his glass. For one stupid second, I thought he was going to drink from it. Instead, he threw the water directly into my face. It was ice water. The shock took my breath. The acceptance letter slipped from my hands. Ice cubes bounced off my collarbone and hit the floor. Liam burst out laughing. Arthur stood. "You'll actually think we kept you because we wanted another child." Water ran from my hair down my neck. Helen looked away. Not embarrassed. Bored. "Arthur," she murmured. "No. She's 19. It's time she understands." I couldn't move. Arthur came closer. "You were useful." I remember that word more clearly than anything else. Useful. You matched Liam's blood type. You were healthy. You didn't have medical problems. Every time he needed transfusions when he was little, you were there. I stared at Helen. Her face remained flat, but I thought about hospitals, needles, rooms where nurses would tell me to be brave. The way Helen always brought Liam a toy afterward. The way I got crackers. That's not... My voice cracked. Arthur gave a humorless smile. What? You adopted me? Helen finally looked at me. Her eyes held something almost like annoyance. Don't be dramatic. I could hear my heartbeat. Why? Arthur shrugged. Liam needed help. You adopted me? For him? Liam had stopped laughing, but he was smiling. Arthur pointed at a wet letter on the floor. And now you're asking me to take money away for his future, so you can go play college girl. I'm not asking you to take anything away. $500 is $500. I looked at the $6,000 watch on Liam's wrist. He noticed. He covered it with his other hand and grinned. Don't look at me. Arthur stepped closer until I could smell the coffee on his breath. You were a backup blood bag, Anya. That's what you were. That's what you are. Something inside me went very still. There are sentences you remember because they hurt. And then there are sentences that rearrange your entire childhood. Suddenly, every hospital visit made sense. Every time Liam got sick and Helen became sweet to me for due days. Every time Arthur told me I owed this family gratitude. Every time I was told I was selfish for saying I didn't feel well before a blood draw. My entire life folded into a shape I finally recognized. I bent down and picked up the wet letter. Ellen clicked her tongue. You're dripping on the floor. I looked at her. For years I had wanted her to hug me. That sounds pathetic now. But when you're a kid, you don't understand that some adults simply do not have the thing you're asking for. You think if you become better, quieter, smarter, cleaner, maybe they'll produce it. I wiped water off my face. I'll figure it out myself. Arthur sat back down. Good. Liam reached for another strawberry. Can you still do my economics assignment tonight? I looked at him. He wasn't joking. I walked out of the kitchen. Anya, he called. I kept walking. I need it by 10. The laundry room door locked from the outside. Arthur had installed a lock when I was 14, after I tried to leave during an argument. By 19, he didn't use it every night. Only when he thought I was being difficult. That night, the lock clicked at 9:30. I sat on the edge of the cot, still wearing damp clothes. My college letter lay open beside me. There were water stains over the financial aid paragraph. I took out my phone. Cracked screen. WEMP plan. $23 left in my checking account. I searched for emergency housing grants, then student hardship funds, then churches, then overnight jobs. At 11:47, Liam texted me, Where is my Ecken Assassine? Where is my Ecken Assassine genuine? I stared at the message. A second one appeared. Hello. Then, don't be a bitch. Just because Dad told you the truth. I turned the phone face down. That was the first time I didn't do his homework. The next morning, Liam had a meltdown. Not metaphorically. He stood at the top of the basement stairs screaming my name. Ania. He always spelled my name wrong when he was angry. Arthur unlocked the door. What the hell is wrong with you? I was already dressed for work. I'm leaving. Liam's assignment. I didn't do it. Arthur stared at me. Why? Because it's his. Liam pushed past him. You screwed me. No. I picked up my backpack. I stopped helping you cheat. His face changed. What did you say? You heard me. It was the smallest act of rebellion imaginable. But I had never done it before. Arthur grabbed my arm. Howard, don't start this. I looked at his hand, then at him. I have work. You live in my house. I know. You eat my food. The leftovers, the burnt pieces, anything Liam didn't want. I know. You follow my rules. I pulled my arm free. His eyes widened. I was surprised too. I walked upstairs. Erin was sitting at the dining table. A jewellery box was open in front of her. I barely noticed it. Later, I would remember everything. The red velvet lining, her diamond ring sitting beside the box, the way she glanced at my backpack, the way she asked when I'd be home. 6. Come straight back. I nodded. Then I left. The grocery store manager called me into his office around noon. For one terrified second, I thought Arthur had called him. Instead, He shut the door and held up an envelope. "You're going to hate this." I looked at him. "What? Employee fund." My throat tightened. Someone had told him about my college deposit. Probably Mia from Produce. She knew everything because I had cried in the break room one night after getting the scholarship. We all chipped in. He handed me the envelope. I opened it. $620. I stared. "Oh!" That was all I could say. Mr. Alvarez cleared his throat, like make it weird. I laughed. Then I started crying. Not loudly. I hated crying in front of people. He pushed a box of tissues toward me. "You're a good kid, aren't you?" I pressed one to my eyes. Nobody had ever said that to me like it was obvious. "You don't have to pay us back." "I will, though. I want to." "Then graduate." I held the envelope with both hands. For the rest of the shift, I felt something I barely recognized. Hope. I paid the housing deposit during my lunch break. At 4:17 p.m., I received the confirmation email. "Resident secured." I read it 4 times. Then I took a screenshot. I almost sent it to Helen. That old reflex. "Look what I did. Hope you'd be proud of me." I didn't send it. At 6:12, I turned onto our street. There were 2 police cars outside the house. My first thought was Liam. Maybe he'd gotten sick. I started running. Neighbors were standing on their porches. Helen was outside crying. Actually crying, I thought. Then one of the officers saw me. "Anya?" I slowed down. "Yes?" Helen covered her mouth. "Oh my God." Arthur came down the steps. "There she is." Something in his voice stopped me. The officer approached. "Anya, we need to ask you a few questions." "About what?" Helen made a broken sound. "My ring." I looked at her. "What ring?" "My grandmother's diamond ring." My stomach dropped. "The jewelry box." "That morning, I didn't know anything about your ring." Arthur shook his head. "Just to tell the truth." "I am." The officer held out a hand. "Do you have a backpack?" I looked at the bag over my shoulder. "Yes." "Would you mind if we take a look?" I should have said no. I know that now. But I was 19, terrified, and some part of me still believed truth protected innocent people automatically. I took off the backpack. "Go ahead." Helen began crying harder. The officer unzipped the front compartment. Pence, a charger, my work badge. Then the main compartment, textbooks, uniform shirt, enveloped from Mr. Alvarez. He reached between 2 books and pulled out Helen's diamond ring. The entire street became silent. I stared at it. No. My mind rejected what my eyes were seeing. "No." Helen screamed. "That's it. No." Arthur closed his eyes, like a disappointed father in a television drama. "I knew it. I didn't put that there." The officer looked at me. "Anya, I didn't." Helen rushed toward me. "How could you?" I stepped back. "You put it there." Her face changed, barely, but I saw it. Then she slapped me. The officer moved between us. "Ma'am," Helen sobbed into Arthur's chest. "After everything we did for her." Neighbors watched. Mrs. Coleman from across the street covered her mouth. Mr. Reed looked at the ground. People who had watched me carry groceries inside while Liam played video games. People who'd seen me shovel snow alone. People who had noticed. Nobody said anything. One officer asked me to turn around. My legs felt weak. "What?" "Anya, turn around. You're arresting me. We're detaining you while we investigate." "I didn't steal it." "Please turn around." Arthur watched me. I looked at him. He had no expression. "Tell them." "Nothing, Arthur." He looked almost annoyed. "Don't make this harder." The handcuff closed around my wrist. Then the other. Cold metal. I heard Liam before I saw him. Wow. He was standing in the doorway, smiling. He whispered just loudly enough for me to hear, "Guess you won't need the dorm." That was when I understood. Not everything, but enough. They hadn't just wanted me gone. They had planned it. The ring, the police, the public scene, Helen's crying, Arthur's silence. Liam already knew. I started shaking. The officer guided me toward the police car. "Helen called after us. Check her bank account. She's probably been stealing for years." I stopped. Arthur had access to my account. Every paycheck, every dollar. He had taken most of it. The officer gently pushed my head down so I wouldn't hit the roof getting into the back seat. The door shut. Through the window, I saw my family standing together on the lawn, Arthur's arm around Helen, Liam behind them, a perfect family, and me, removed from the picture. At the station, They took my shoelaces, my phone, my backpack, my belt. A woman officer asked whether I had any medical conditions. I almost laughed. No. Medications? No. History of self-harm? No. History of self-harm? No. History of self-harm? Yours. I realized I was crying. I wiped my face with my shoulder. Yes. They put me in a holding cell. The bench was metal. The air conditioner was too cold. There was graffiti scratched into the wall beside me. I sat down. For the first hour I kept thinking someone would fix it. The officer would notice something. A neighbor would speak up. Helen would feel guilty. Arthur would admit it. Liam would get scared. By the third hour, I stopped believing that. A public defender came by. She was kind, but exhausted. She explained that the ring's value could make the charge serious. Do you have somewhere else to stay? If you're released. I opened my mouth, then closed it. No. Any relatives? No. Friends? I can maybe call my manager. She wrote something down. Your parents say they won't allow you back into the home. There it was, their real goal. I stared at the floor. They're not my parents. The lawyer paused. Okay. I don't know why that made me cry harder. Not my parents. For years, saying that would have felt like betrayal. Now it felt like the first true thing I'd said all day. Around 9 that night, I asked to make a phone call. I called the grocery store. Mr. Alvarez answered. Anya? I'm sorry. Where are you? Police station. A pause. What happened? They said I stole a ring. You didn't. He said it immediately, no hesitation. I covered my mouth. How do you know? Because you cried over $600 we gave you and tried to pay me back before you even cashed the envelope. I laughed through tears. They found it in my bag. That doesn't mean you put it there. I closed my eyes. Nobody in my family had ever defended me that quickly. I may need somewhere to. The line cut. Time limit. I put the phone back. Then I returned to the cell. At 10:30, I heard laughter from the front desk. At 11, somebody brought me a thin blanket. At 11:23, an officer came to the cell door and stared at me. Not the same officer as before. An older man. Grey hair. He held a printed sheet. What's your full name? Anya Hart. He looked down. Date of birth, I told him. Where were you born? I don't know. His eyes lifted. What do you mean? I was adopted. Agency? I don't know. State? I don't know. He stared. I don't know. He stared at the paper again. Hold on. He walked away quickly. 5 minutes later, 2 officers came back. One of them unlocked the outer holding area. They were whispering. I stood. What's happening? Nobody answered. Then I heard someone say, run the prints again. Another voice, we did. Manually? Yes. What confidence? 99.9. Silence. Then call the supervisor. My skin prickled. An officer appeared at the cell. He looked pale. Enya. I took a step back. What? He unlocked the door. I'm going to need you to come with me. Why? His hands were shaking. I'm sorry. I stared at him. I'm sorry. I stared at him. I'm sorry. I stared at him. The what? Behind him, phones started ringing. Several at once. Someone ran through the corridor holding a tablet. Then another officer shouted from the front, they're here. Through a narrow window beside the booking desk, headlights swept across the parking lot. 1 SUV. Then another. Then another. 5. Black vehicles turned sharply into the precinct lot and stopped almost in formation. Doors opened. Men and women in dark suits stepped out. And between them was a tall man with silver at his temples. He didn't wait for anyone to open the front door. He pushed through it himself. Where is she? The room went silent. I stood behind the booking desk barefoot, wrapped in a county blanket. The man saw me. He stopped walking. Everything in his face disappeared. Authority, anger, of control. Gone. His lips parted. For several seconds he couldn't speak. Then he whispered a name I had never heard before, a Nadal. I looked behind me. Nobody was there. He moved toward me. One of the lawyers touched his arm. Marcus. The man ignored him. His eyes never left my face. There were tears in them. Not polite tears. Not Helen's theatrical crying. His entire body looked like it had forgotten how to stand. He reached into his jacket. An officer immediately shifted. The lawyer raised both hands. Photograph. They're getting a photograph. Marcus pulled out an old wallet. His fingers shook so badly he nearly dropped it. Inside was a picture. A toddler sitting on a lawn, dark hair, grey-green eyes, a crooked smile. I stared at the little girl's face. Then I stared at him. "Who's that?" His mouth twisted. "My daughter." The room tilted. I gripped the desk. Marcus stepped closer. "She disappeared 18 years ago." I couldn't breathe. "No." He nodded once. "She had a small scar beneath her left shoulder. My entire body went cold. I had that scar. Arthur told me I'd fallen against a heater when I was a baby." Marcus saw something in my face. His knees nearly gave out. "Oh, God." He covered his mouth. I took a step back. "No, Annabelle. My name is Anya, okay?" He said it immediately. "Okay?" He said it immediately. "Okay?" He said it immediately. "Anna." One of the attorneys approached gently. My name is Rachel Vale. We represent Mr. Sterling and the Sterling family. Your fingerprints triggered a protected missing person identification file associated with a long-running federal investigation." I shook my head. "I don't understand." Rachel spoke carefully. 18 years ago, Marcus Sterling's 2-year-old daughter disappeared from a public park outside Boston after becoming separated from her nanny during an emergency. Marcus was crying openly now. "We searched everywhere." I stared at him. "We never stopped." "No, we never stopped." I looked around the station. Every officer was watching us. The grey-haired officer who had unlocked the cell looked sick. Rachel continued. "Your childhood biometric records, medical information, and other identifying data were preserved as part of the investigation. Your booking prints produced an alert." I looked at my hands. The same fingers Helen had once called ugly. The same hands that had washed Liam's dishes, done Liam's homework, scrubbed bathroom floors, carried groceries. Those fingerprints had just opened a door 18 years wide. Marcus whispered, "May I?" He stopped. His hands were half raised. He didn't touch me. That mattered more than he could know. "May I see the scar?" I looked at Rachel. She nodded slightly. "Only if you want." I pulled the blanket away from my shoulder and moved the collar of my shirt. Marcus made a sound. A broken one. He turned away, pressed both hands against his face, then walked 3 steps toward the wall because he could not stay upright. I had never seen a grown man cry like that. Not in movies, not in real life, and something terrible happened inside me. I wanted to comfort him, a stranger, a man I'd known for less than 3 minutes. I wanted to tell him it was okay. It wasn't. Nothing was okay. Rachel asked the police supervisor for a private room. Within 20 minutes, the theft investigation changed completely. Security footage from the grocery store established that my backpack had been in the employee locker room most of the day. Body cam footage captured Heaven's performance. My account records showed no suspicious deposits. More importantly, when detectives asked Helen when she had last seen the ring, her timeline shifted 3 times. Then came the call that broke the whole thing open. Mrs. Coleman, our neighbor. She had a doorbell camera pointed partly toward our driveway. At 7:41 that morning, it recorded Helen walking to my carpool pickup spot with my backpack. I had forgotten my lunch. She claimed she was putting it inside. The footage showed her unzip the main compartment. The public defender returned after midnight. This time she was smiling. "You're being released." I stared at her. "That's it, not exactly." She glanced through the glass wall at the army of attorneys outside. "But for tonight, yes." The handcuff marks were still around my wrists when I walked out. Marcus stood near the door. He had regained control, mostly. Rachel gave me my phone. It had 36 notifications. Most were from neighbors. 2 were from neighbors. 2 were from Liam. The first said, "LOL." The second, "Don't come back." I stared at the screen. Marcus saw it. His jaw hardened. "Is that him?" "Yes, their son." I nodded. "The one you were forced to donate blood to?" I looked at him. "How did you?" "We pulled your emergency medical records." Rachel's expression was careful. "We found repeated procedures. Some consent documentation appears questionable." I felt embarrassed. I don't know why. I was supposed to help him. Marcus looked at me for a long time. No child is supposed to earn a bed by bleeding for it. My throat closed. I looked down. He didn't touch me. He just stood there, waiting. After a moment, I whispered, "I don't have anywhere to go." Marcus made a sound that was almost a laugh and almost a sob. "Yes, you do." The private jet was waiting 40 minutes away. I had never been on an airplane. I had barely been outside the state. Rachel kept asking whether I wanted food. I kept saying no. Then she put a sandwich beside me without comment. I ate the entire thing. Marcus sat across from me. He did not stop looking at me. Not in a creepy way, more like he was afraid I might disappear when he blinked. Finally, I said, "Please stop." He looked startled. "Sorry, Lo, I looked out the window. I'm not used to people watching me unless I've done something wrong." His face changed. "I'm sorry." I nodded. The engines hummed beneath us. After a while, he said, "Your mother died 6 years ago." I turned. He looked at his hands. "Her name was Evelyn. I didn't know what to say. She searched with me until the end." He swallowed. "Every birthday she bought you one gift." My eyes burned. "We have them." I stared. 18, 17. I bought the 18th. He laughed weakly. "I didn't know what 19-year-old girls wanted." "Neither did I. That thought nearly broke me." Marcus pulled out his phone and showed me pictures. My mother, my real mother. So he had my eyes. Amelia had hers. There were photographs of search vigils, billboards, a website, age, progressed images, reward notices, people holding candles. I stared at one photograph. Marcus and Evelyn standing beneath a banner, "Reasonable Home." The date was 11 years earlier. That same year, Arthur had made me give blood twice because Liam had surgery. I pressed my fingers to my mouth. They were looking for me. Every day. And Arthur and Helen. I couldn't finish. Marcus's face became cold. "Yes." I looked at him. "What happens to them?" His eyes held mine. "Whatever the law allows." I thought about the ring, the laundry room, the locked door, the hospital beds, the ice water. Then I thought about Liam's text. LOL. "Don't come back." I looked out into the darkness beyond the jet window. For 18 years I made every decision for me. Marcus stayed silent. I turned back. "I don't want you to decide this either." Something almost like pride moved through his face. "Okay, I want to—" Rachel looked up from her laptop. Marcus slowly nodded. "What do you want?" I could have said prison, money, punishment. I didn't, not yet. "I want to know everything." So we learned everything. Sterling investigators were already working before the jet plane did. The first major discovery came 3 days later. A pawn shop Briseis, 18 years old. The shop had closed, but its archive records had been preserved after a tax investigation. Arthur Hart had pulled a custom gold medical bracelet engraved Anna Deblis E.N. Disselme E. Esterling. 6 days after I disappeared, the amount $2,800. Investigators traced part of it to a gambling debt. The second discovery was worse. Arthur and Helen had never legally adopted me. There were no agency records, no court filings, no lawful custody transfer, nothing. When police questioned them, they claimed the records must have been lost. Then federal agents showed them the receipt. Helen stopped talking. Arthur asked for a lawyer. The truth came piece by piece. They had found me near a park 20 miles from where I disappeared. I had been alone, crying, wearing the bracelet. Instead of calling police, Arthur took me photos. At first, Helen apparently wanted to report me. Then they learned my blood type during an emergency clinic visit, the same rare type as Liam. Their 3-year-old son had a medical condition. Repeated transfusions, possible future procedures. I was healthy, compatible, and expensive to return. They made a choice, but one desperate choice. Thousands of choices, every morning, every birthday, every hospital visit, every time my face appeared in a missing child campaign, every time I asked where I came from, they chose again. Keep her, use her, lie. The Sterling estate was larger than my high school. That's not an exaggeration. My first night there, a housekeeper showed me a bedroom with 2 windows, a private bathroom, and a bed so wide I thought she'd made a mistake. "Whose room is this?" She smiled. "Yours." I stood in the doorway. No. Her smile disappeared. "Is something wrong?" "I don't need all this." She looked confused. It was an ordinary bedroom to her. To me, it felt obscene. That night I slept on the floor beside the bed. I couldn't make myself get under the covers. At 2 in the morning, Marcus found me. He knocked first. Even though the door was open. "Can I come in?" I nodded. He saw me on the floor. He didn't ask why. He sat down on the carpet several feet away. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then he said, "I used to sit outside your nursery at night." I looked at him. "You wouldn't sleep unless someone was nearby." My throat tightened. He smiled faintly. "Your mother said I was creating a bad habit." A pause. "I told her I'd stop." "Did you?" "No. A tiny laugh escaped me, the first real one since the arrest. Marcus looked down. I know a bed doesn't fix anything. No. I know money doesn't fix anything. No. And I know you don't know me. I hugged my knees. No! His eyes became wet, but if it helps. He looked toward the hallway. I can sit outside. I started crying. Quietly, I hated it. I covered my face. Marcus stayed where he was. He didn't say don't cry. He didn't say everything was okay. He didn't make my pain about himself. He just sat there. Eventually I climbed into the bed. He turned off the light. And when I woke up at 6:30, he was asleep in the hallway chair. That was the first moment I believed he might actually be my father. Ealing was not dramatic. It didn't arrive with a private jet, or the DNA confirmation, or the new clothes. Mostly it was irritating. Therapy, medical examinations, questions, learning that I was allowed to close doors, learning nobody would count how much food I ate, learning I didn't need permission to shower, learning housekeepers were not going to report me for leaving a glass on a table, learning I could say no. The first time a doctor asked whether I consented to a blood draw, I stared at her. "You're asking?" She frowned. "Of course." I cried for 20 minutes. Marcus fired 3 doctors before he understood that not every awkward expression was an act of cruelty. I finally told him, "You can't destroy everyone who makes me uncomfortable." He looked genuinely puzzled. "Why not?" I laughed. He smiled. That became our strange middle ground. He wanted to protect me from the world. I wanted to learn how to live in it. A month after I came home, Rachel brought me the lawsuit draft. Child labor, unlawful confinement, medical battery, fraud, identity concealment, false reporting, conversion of wages, a dozen other claims. The number at the bottom was enormous. I stared at it. "Do we need that much?" Rachel leaned back much. But why? Because they structured their entire lives around taking from you. She closed the folder. Restitution should hurt. That afternoon, Arthur and Helen received the certified letter. I wasn't there. But Mrs. Coleman sent investigators footage from across the street. Arthur signed for the envelope. Read the first page. Went white. Helen grabbed it. Liam came outside. There was no champagne that night. 2 weeks later, their bank accounts were frozen under court order. Their legal bills began. The social circle disappeared. Neighbors stopped answering calls. Arthur's employer placed him on administrative leave. Glenn's church removed her from a volunteer committee. And Liam? Liam posted online, "My family is being targeted by a mentally unstable criminal. I read it at breakfast. Marcus saw my face. What? I handed him the phone. He read the post. His jaw tightened. I reached for the phone. No lawyers threatening him. Marcus raised an eyebrow. I wasn't going to threaten him. You were. I was going to educate him. That's billionaire language for threaten him. He smiled despite himself. I looked at Liam's profile. Hawthorne University merchandise everywhere. Sweatshirt, hat, acceptance banner, campus tour pictures. He had built his entire identity around getting in, not learning. Getting in. Being seen getting in. I clicked through older posts. Then I saw one of his high school awards. Advanced Economics. I stared at it. I'd taken that exam. Not officially, but I had written the answers the night before while he copied them onto a hidden sheet. Another award. National History essay. I wrote that essay. Another. Business leadership portfolio. Mine. By the time I put the phone down, my hands were shaking. Marcus watched me carefully. What is it? He cheated. On what? Everything. I thought of the binder Arthur kept in his office. Old tests, assignments, printed essays, competent essays, copies of records. Arthur loved documentation when it benefited Liam. My stomach tightened. There might be proof. Sterling investigators recovered it during discovering. The binder, 3 inches thick, drafts in my handwriting, edited tests, printed answer keys. Liam submitted work beside my originals. Email exchanges between Helen and a private tutoring consultant discussing score adjustments. And a forward recommendation signature. Rachel spread everything across a conference table. This is enough to reopen the admission review. Marcus leaned back. Then do it. I shook my head. Not yet. Everyone looked at me. For months I had reacted to what Arthur and Helen did. Police, lawyers, doctors, investigators, courts, mediators, courts. I was always the person something had happened to. For once, I wanted to choose the timing. What does Hawthorne care about most? Marcus smiled slowly. Money. I looked at him. No. His smile faded. Reputation. Exactly. The Sterling Foundation had donated to Hawthorne for 27 years. A science centre, research grants, scholarships, faculty chairs. My mother had served on a university advisory committee. Marcus had quietly increased funding after she died. We met with the Board of Trustees 3 weeks later. I expected powerful people to be intimidating. Mostly they were nervous. There were 14 of them around a long walnut table. The president, the provost, general counsel, Dean Holloway, 3 trustees whose names I recognized from business news, and me, 19 years old, the girl who had spent the previous year sleeping beside a washing machine. I wore a grey suit Rachel helped me choose. No diamonds, no dramatic entrance. I brought the binder. The university president spoke first. Miss Sterling, let me begin by saying how deeply. I held up a hand. He stopped. That surprised both of us. I'm not here to discuss sympathy. The room went still. I placed the binder on the table. I'm here because Hawthorne admitted a student using fraudulent academic work. The general counsel opened it. Page by page, the room changed. Polite concern became discomfort. Discomfort became alarm. Dean Holloway removed his glasses. How much of this work did you complete? I looked at the document. Enough that I'm not sure Liam Hart could pass an introductory course without help. One trustee cleared his throat. Ms. Sterling, disciplinary procedures require. I want procedures. He looked surprised. I don't want you to break rules for me. Marcus glanced sideways at me. I continued. I spent 18 years living with people who thought rules existed for other people, not becoming them. That mattered, even to me. I want an investigation, a real one. And when it confirms a fraud, I want every legitimate consequence available under university policy. The president nodded. That's reasonable. There's more. I told them the truth, the kidnapping, the false theft accusation, the medical exploitation, the evidence. Nobody interrupted. When I finished, Dean Holloway looked physically ill. I closed the binder. Hawthorne's name is being used as a trophy by someone whose entire academic record was built partly on coercing the girl his parents illegally kept in their home. Silence. I don't think that's the reputation this institution wants. The board voted to open an expedited fraud review. Marcus didn't threaten to remove funding. He didn't need to. Everyone in the room understood the stakes. Still, when one trustee later asked privately whether the Sterling Foundation's future commitment depended on the university's response, I answered carefully. It depends on whether Hawthorne protects its standards when doing so is uncomfortable. That was enough. The investigation found more than we expected. Modified transcripts, false service hours, paid test assistants, a recommendation letter Helena drafted herself and submitted under a counselor's name. Liam's admission collapsed under its own weight. But we didn't tell him immediately. Dean Holloway sent the email. You're invited to a private freshman excellence meeting prior to orientation. Liam posted a screenshot within 7 minutes. Prior is the moment, by had them includes common. I saw it while sitting with my therapist. She looked at my phone. How do you feel? I thought about it. Disappointed in him, in myself. Why? Because I thought this would feel better. She waited. I stared through the office window. I wanted revenge so badly. And now, I still want consequences. That's different. I looked at her. Is it? It can be. That stayed with me. By the morning of Liam's meeting, I understood what I actually wanted. Not pain, not suffering for entertainment. I wanted the thing Arthur and Helena denied me my whole life. Reality. I wanted them to encounter reality without being able to bend it. No screaming, no planted ring, no locked laundry room, no lies about blood, just consequences, which is how I ended up behind the dean's desk when Liam walked in. And now he was sitting across from me staring at his expulsion paperwork. His lips moved. No! I waited. He looked at Dean Holloway. My father paid tuition. Yes, you can't keep it. The dean responded. You can't keep it. The enrollment agreement includes forfeiture in cases of material application fraud. Liam slammed both hands on the desk. This is insane. One of the security men shifted. I stayed seated. Liam pointed at me. She did my homework willingly. I felt something inside me go cold. Dean Holloway stared at him. Liam realized what he'd said. I opened the binder. Would you like to repeat that? Shut up. Page 62. I turned the binder around. His economics exam. My handwritten solution sheet beside it. Page 84. History essay. His face tightened. Page 111. Business portfolio. Stop. Page 111. Business portfolio. Stop. Page 138. Recommendation signature. Stop. His shout echoed outside the office. I closed the binder. You used to tell me I was stupid. His chest rose and fell. You told people I couldn't get into a real university. Because you couldn't. I earned a full scholarship. To a garbage school. I smiled faintly. That garbage school admitted me on my own work. He looked at my clothes. My father, the office. What, and now you're some rich princess? There he was, the same Liam. Even with everything collapsing, you still needed to make me small enough to understand. I stood. I'm Annabelle Sterling. He laughed. A nervous, ugly sound. No, you're not. Marcus spoke, she is. Liam looked at him. My daughter was missing for 18 years. He took one step forward. Your parents knew exactly who she was. Liam's face drained. No. They sold the bracelet she was wearing when they found her. No. They concealed her identity. No. They used her as a medical donor. Liam's eyes moved toward me. For the first time, there was something other than anger in them. Fear. Not of me, of memory. The hospital. My bandages. The way Helen praised him afterward. You knew, I said. He shook his head. No, you knew enough. I was a kid, so was I. That landed. He looked away. I continued. You were sick. None of that was your fault. His eyes snapped back to mine. For 1 second, he looked almost hopeful. Then I finished. But what you did after you were old enough to understand, that belongs to you. His hope disappeared. You laughed when Dad called me a blood bag. I didn't mean you texted me after I was arrested. His mouth closed. I still have it. Silence. LOL. Don't come back. I didn't need to read it aloud. He remembered. I was angry. No. You were happy. He stood suddenly. Mo. You were happy. He stood suddenly. This is bullshit. Security moved closer. Liam shoved the chair backward. You think you're better than me now? I looked at him. No. That surprised him. I think I finally stopped believing you're better than me. His face twisted. He grabbed the expulsion papers and tore them once. Then again, Dean Holloway sighed. Mr. Hart, those are copies. I almost laughed. Liam lunged across the desk. He never reached me. One security guard caught his arm. The other stepped between us. Let go of me! Liam, Dean Holloway warned. Get off me! He swung. Bad decision. The guards restrained him and moved him toward the door. He kicked the briefcase. It opened. Pence. A tablet. A glossy Hawthorne orientation packet. Everything spilled across the carpet. The door opened. Students in the administrative hallway turned. Liam saw them. That was the moment he truly broke. Not when he lost admission. Not when he lost tuition. When people saw him losing it. Don't touch me! One of the guards guided him into the hall. I'm a student here. Dean Holloway stood in the doorway. No, Mr. Hart. A pause. You're not. Dozens of faces watched. Phones appeared. Liam went silent. The guards escorted him toward the elevator. I remained inside the office. My hands were shaking. Marcus noticed. You okay? I looked at the empty chair. No. Then I thought about it. Yes. But it were true. The university submitted the fault findings through the appropriate academic and admissions reporting channels. There wasn't a magical national blacklist. Reality was harsher. Every institution Liam applied to could request records. Hawthorne's findings followed him. When he lied about them, the lies became additional grounds for rejection. When he omitted Hawthorne entirely, background checks exposed the gap. 3 universities rescinded offers. 2 rejected him outright. Another required an academic integrity review. He refused. His manufactured reputation collapsed because it had never contained anything solid. Arthur called me 3 days after Liam's expulsion. I almost didn't answer. Then I did. Hello? Silence. I could hear him breathing. Anya. My stomach tightened automatically, even after therapy, even after the estate, even after the lawyers. His voice still reached some frightened part of me living beside the washing machine. I sat down. What do you want? You've made your point. I closed my eyes. What point? You won. Is that what you think this is? You got Liam kicked out. Our accounts are frozen. Your lawyers are trying to take the house. My lawyers don't play games. I looked through the window at the gardens outside. You filed a false police report. That was Helen. There it was. Not even 5 minutes. He was already sacrificing her. You kept a missing child for 18 years. Silence. We took care of you. I actually laughed. A single breath. You locked me in a laundry room. You had a bed. You took my wages. We paid for your food. You used my blood. Liam was sick. His voice rose. Finally, the real Arthur. You think we had choices? Yes. The word came out quietly. He stopped. You had a choice the day you found me. I swallowed. You had a choice when you saw my bracelet. Nothing. You had a choice every time my real parents appeared on television begging for information. His breathing changed. So you Amber? I remember you changing the channel. Silence. That memory had surfaced only days earlier. A news story. A missing child anniversary. My mother crying on screen. Helen entering the room quickly. Arthur switching to football. I had been 7. I remembered asking why the lady was sad. Arthur told me some people lose things because they're careless. I got the fame. My mother died without knowing I was alive. Arthur said nothing. For that, I will never forgive you. His voice became smaller. Anya, please. I'd spent my entire childhood waiting for that word. Please. From him. It sounded empty now. The federal case isn't mine to stop. Your father can. My father doesn't control federal prosecutors. He controls everything. No. I looked toward the doorway. Marcus was standing there. He had heard enough to understand. I held Arthur's silence. No, Arthur. That's something you never understood. I ended the call. The arrests happened 6 weeks later. Federal agents arrived at the house at 7 in the morning. Arthur was taken out first. Helen came out crying. For once the tears were real. Neighbors watched. The same porches. The same driveway. The same street where I had been handcuffed. Estes Coleman later told me nobody celebrated. I was glad. I was glad. I didn't want to party. I didn't want champagne. I didn't want to become them. The house was eventually sold under a combination of restitution orders, civil judgments, and creditor claims. Most of Arthur and Helen's remaining assets disappeared into legal costs and damages. Their criminal cases took longer. The evidence was overwhelming. The porn receipt, search campaign records proving they had reason to know who I was, medical records, false guardianship documents, witness statements, financial records, the illegal confinement, the false theft report. Helen eventually turned on Arthur. Arthur blamed Helen. Neither accepted responsibility. That part didn't surprise me. People who spend their lives using others rarely discover loyalty when the room gets small. Both received long prison sentences, not because my father was wealthy, not because I wanted revenge, because 18 years is a long time to keep choosing a crime. Liam was never charged with kidnapping. He'd been a child when I was taken. He wasn't responsible for his parents' original decision. That mattered to me. But adulthood gave him his own decisions. Fraud, academic dishonesty, participating in the false accusation, lying during the investigation. Those consequences belonged to him. Without Arthur's money, he moved out of the apartment his parents had rented near Hawthorne. He sold the watch, then the car. He tried community college. They required disclosure of his academic integrity history. He withdrew. The last I heard, he was working at a warehouse outside Hartford. When Marcus told me, he watched my face carefully. Does that make you happy? I thought about Liam carrying boxes, sweating, answering to a supervisor, doing work nobody else would secretly finish for him. No. Marcus waited. It makes sense, he nodded. That was enough. I didn't need Liam starving in a gutter. For years, Arthur and Helen taught me that justice meant one child had to suffer so another could thrive. I refused to carry that lesson into my new life. If Liam changed, good. If he didn't, reality would continue without my help. I enrolled in university the following fall. Not Hawthorne. People assumed I would go there after everything. I couldn't. Too many memories were attached to that campus that weren't really mine. I chose another school. Excellent. Old. Difficult. A place where my professors didn't care who my father was once I entered the classroom. On my first day, I sat near the back. Old habit. The professor asked a question about institutional ethics. I knew the answer. I didn't raise my hand. Then I remembered the laundry room, the locked door, Liam shouting for homework, Arthur telling me what I was worth. I raised my hand. The professor pointed at me. Miss Sterling, I answered. My voice shook for the first sentence, then it didn't. After class, I walked outside. Students crossed the quad. Someone laughed near a fountain. A bicycle bell rang. Nobody knew what my blood type was. Nobody needed anything from my body. Nobody locked my bedroom. Nobody had locked my bedroom. Nobody had planted anything in my bag. I stood there longer than necessary, just breathing. That night I drove home to the Sterling estate. Home. It took me almost a year before that word stopped feeling borrowed. Marcus was on the balcony. 2 glasses sat on the table, sparkling water. I looked at them. He followed my eyes. Oh, he remembered. Ice water. Arthur, he remembered. Ice water. Arthur. The kitchen. Sorry, I can get something else. No, I picked up the glass. It's okay, he smiled. We stood beside the railing. The sky was clear. There were lights across the grounds, small and warm between the trees. Marcus leaned on the stone. Your mother would have liked you. I looked at him. You don't know that. He laughed softly. No, I don't. I smiled. But she would have loved you. That hurt differently. Not like the old pain. This pain had somewhere to go. I looked out across the lawn. For 18 years, I thought love was a debt. Food meant I owed obedience. A bed meant I owed blood. School meant I owed labor. Being allowed to stay meant I owed silence. Arthur and Helen didn't just steal my childhood. They taught me to translate every act of care into an invoice. Marcus spent years undoing that without ever asking me to call him Dad. He never demanded gratitude, never asked me to forgive quickly, never turned his search for me into something I owed him for. One evening, months after I started college, I found the birthday gifts my mother had bought. 17 boxes, different sizes, different wrapping paper, my name written on each card. Annabelle, age 3. Annabelle, age 4. Annabelle, age 4. Age 4. Annabelle, age 5. I sat on the floor for hours. I opened only one, age 10. Inside was a telescope. A note from my mother said, Your dad thinks this one is too advanced. I think you'll figure it out. Love, Mum. I laughed and cried, then laughed again. Marcus found me, surrounded by wrapping paper. He stopped in the doorway. Are you okay? I wiped my face. No. He nodded. Then I held up the telescope. She was right. About what? I can figure it out. Marcus smiled. She usually was. I looked at him. Dad? He froze. I never called him that. Not once. The expression on his face was so ridiculous that I started laughing. He covered his eyes. Oh, come on. What? Don't do that to an old man without warning. I laughed harder. He sat down beside me. For a while, we looked at the unopened presents. 18 years of birthdays that could never be returned. Nothing could fix that. That's something people get wrong about happy endings. They think happiness erases what happened. It doesn't. I still hate the smell of cheap laundry detergent. I still wake up when I hear a lock click. I still feel sick when someone reaches toward my backpack without asking. Hospitals are difficult. Blood tests are worse. Sometimes, when somebody is kind to me, my first instinct is still to ask what they want. Ealing didn't turn me into a different person. It gave me the right to become the person I should have been allowed to be all along. Arthur once told me I was a backup blood bag. Helen once told police I was a thief. Liam once told me I had no future worth protecting. They were wrong, not because I became wealthy, not because my father had private jets, not because my name opened boardroom doors. They were wrong when I was sleeping beside the washing machine. They were wrong when I had $23. They were wrong when I stood in handcuffs on the lawn. I just didn't know it yet. That was the real thing they took from me. Not money, not college, not a bedroom. The belief that I had value before anyone powerful said I did. I have it now, and nobody gets to take it again.